Welcome to the Perspectives Podcast. My name is Josue. As you guys probably already know, I'm from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Attended the Oral Roberts University. I preach at times. I'm a fellow believer, probably like some of you guys. And to my right, we have Mr. Chase Brown himself. He was born in Texas. He went to UNT, the University of North Texas. He's an aspiring philanthropic creative. And according to everybody, he loves very long walks on the beach. Why? I have no idea. Hopefully we can figure it out this week. Chase, how's it going?
Doing good, bro.
Yeah.
Just enjoyed some Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
So it's not like I could be in a bad place after
true.
that.
Yeah.
And we had a good morning this morning doing some outreach with our guest and his organization. And so life's good, bro. How are you?
I'm good, man. I think it's been almost going on 2 years now trying to figure out this whole beach situation, but hopefully one of these days you'll be able to come out and just tell us all about it, so we'll see. But as you guys probably already know, every time we are online or just having conversations, we try to bring on a special guest. And today we brought in a very special guest. So if you give me about 15 to 10 minutes to read all of his accolades and all the things that he's done, I'll be able to introduce you to our guest today. His name is Tyrone Nance. He's a passionate leader who has dedicated his life to connecting others through transformative community engagement, having worked in the nonprofit sector for several years and community organizations for over a decade. Tyrone has organized community events as protests throughout the city of Los Angeles and centered around justice, equality, and unity. Tyrone was able to participate with international relief work in developing nations, worked with several churches in the LA area, community outreach engagements and efforts, and has also worked on Skid Row at the Union Rescue Mission advocating for those experiencing homelessness. Tyrone is also the president and the executive director of a nonprofit called It's Bigger Than Us, which is a grassroots movement created to help transform the social, economic conditions of South Los Angeles through diverse volunteer efforts and community organizing, community outreach. Tyrone Nance received his BA in Public Relations from Oral Roberts University, as I like to call it, the Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and a master's in Transformational Urban Leadership from Azusa Pacific University in Azusa, California. Currently, Tyrone is a volunteer manager and community outreach specialist for the Violence Intervention Program Community Mental Health Center. Tyrone was born and raised in South Central Los Angeles. That is the longest introduction that we've done for our guest, but we have a very special guest today. Tyrone Nance, how are you doing?
Yeah. Yo, what's going on? Thank you for that fire intro.
It was fire.
Yeah.
It was one of my best. I almost stumbled a couple times, but I feel like I was able to make it. But
we got to remember, English isn't your first language.
English isn't my first language.
As you like to say.
I do my best to get through these reads and these conversations in one piece. But man, we're in LA. First question everybody's probably wondering, where should we go eat? And what are some of the things we can do around here?
Oh, man. Even as I was coming over here, Lemonade.
Yeah.
We definitely want to hit Lemonade. It is a fire spot that has a diverse range of food. And because it's called Lemonade, they have a plethora of different lemonades you can choose from.
There we go.
Salt and straw ice cream. I love ice cream. They have various flavors. One of my favorite is... I can't even think of the name right now. I don't know why, because I haven't been because of quarantine.
Yeah,
because of quarantine. But also there's a ton of if you want to dive deeper into the Crenshaw community, we have Simply Wholesome, which is right off Slauson, which is a community favorite. If you love chicken. And you're on the go really quick. You got Louisiana chicken. It's a fire spot. Of course, you got Roscoe's.
Yeah,
fire.
The staple. The list goes on. Anything and almost everything here is a fire move.
Yeah,
and you got the beach. You're right next door to the beach.
Next to the beach.
You got Santa Monica Beach, right? Then you got Venice Beach. Then you got
South Beach.
Palos Verdes. You got Malibu.
Yeah.
And the rocks, they look a little different, but the waves still crash the same.
Hey, it's all the same, right? Yeah.
That's quite a line.
Yeah.
It is.
Rocks are different, but they crash the same. I like it. So I love it because actually Grayson behind the camera, he was like, on our way back, we passed Salt and Straw.
Yeah.
And he was like, yo, we got to go here. The last time I was here, we went here. This was amazing. So that affirmation, we got to do that, Grayson. So
Most incredible food. And it's always, the ice cream's always themed too. Every month it's like it's a new theme. But by the time we finish this podcast, like I'm going to remember what that ice cream is. And I'm gonna say it's just, we're going to be talking about something super deep, and I'm just going to be like chocolate.
do it. We're pumped. But so we're excited to have you on.
Honey lavender.
There we go.
Honey lavender.
That was quick.
That was quick. Yeah, I was waiting for
Thank you.
the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
but-
And they're really a lot of passion behind that too.
Yeah. Burden off your chest. Because I thought it was gonna be like minute 42 or something. Just like, hey guys, honey lavender. Just like, bro, we talking about righteousness. What you doing?
just randomly too, you know. Yeah.
But yeah, man. Ever since we started planning the trip,
Yeah.
we were excited to have you on. We've been thinking about coming into LA for a minute, and for us, like me, Josue Perspectives, everyone who's involved,
Yeah.
we try to be really intentional about balance in everything we do, because something that we're really passionate about is balancing any international work that we do with any domestic work that we do,
Facts.
making sure that we're congruent there, but also that we balance any creative time that we have for the podcast with direct service time.
Yeah.
So that we know that I think our heart's being genuine in that, hey, we're not just some people here trying to be all light and creative and just have fun.
Yeah.
Like we want to have people know like the love of God. And so the second we planned it, Joshua was like, hey, like I got a boy out here that we can probably do something with. Let me see. He's busy. As we can see from the intro,
He's a busy man. Yep.
he's busy, but let's see if he's got something for us. And then I talked with, what's the lady's name from Dream Center for this morning?
Leah.
So I talked with Leah, and she said that y'all just started back up the outreaches like a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so the timing was just perfect. And I was just like, man, God, like you got something going on. And so I guess to kind of give us a little background, kind of tell us a little bit about the organization, kind of the heart behind it, and how it all got started up, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm going to do it in like a quick elevator pitch, but the long elevator where it's like a little bit of music, you kind of get lost in it. And then by the time like you really find the rhythm, it's time to get off.
It's key though. What kind of music? We talking jazz?
Yeah, it got to be jazz. It has to.
I'm good with jazz.
I mean, that's the one you kind of get lost in a little bit. I think the other ones is kind of like it creates like this weird kind of anxiety feeling. Like somebody comes on, you're like, do I get to really enjoy this music alone, or is this a shared moment I have to have with you? Okay, I'm getting off now. I feel a little bit agitated, but no, it's the one that you get off and you feel good.
There we go. Bet. All right, so you can continue.
Okay, it's bigger than us, right?
Yeah.
It's an awesome love story between like the people in the community, right? That was birthed out of the ashes of protests, and again, like our world is still completely upside down, and a lot of people were screaming Black Lives Matter in the street, right? But we wanted to transfer that and translate that into saying Black Lives Matter within the community, right? Systemically, and so. It was really cool. What we were able to do was gather about 25 black men from Crenshaw community, whether they either went to the school or they were around the district, and we did local check-ins every week on Zoom. And it was just a safe space where it was just like, hey, how are you doing? How are you processing everything? Hey, like, how's your family holding up? Like, let's have a real conversation. Yeah. And it was something cool that really started to transpire there where people that used to have like facades up or that didn't really get to know each other were just like, yo, like I can't get it. Like it's a lot going on. But then there was a lot of moments where it was just a lot of joy, a lot of like relationships being formed and bond, whether you were hood or you were conservative, whether you had a family or you were out in the streets doing your thing. People were like genuinely concerned with one another. And we did that for about a couple months, and right around the time school was getting ready to start back, we were like, all right, let's take this to the next level. Let's do a back to school drive for our local high school, Crenshaw High School. And so we did a GoFundMe, and within like 72 hours, we raised like $12,000. Wow. Right. And this is so essential because this is at a time right now where they're saying like our nation, 50% of the people are unemployed. And then when you look into the black and brown communities, it's even lower. But people said, you know what, the kids matter so much that we're going to put our money towards this. And so we end up having so much money left over, we end up cutting a check. We got school supplies for all the students, and then we end up cutting a check for $5,000 at Crenshaw High School, and then gave them $1,000 in like incentivized gift cards that they can hand out to like the staff, the students, for different purposes. And then we just continue to kept growing. It's bigger than us from there. And within that time span of doing outreach, prepping the materials and passing out the stuff. We had about 200 people volunteer within a week. Wow. And so you had white, you had black, you had guys, but you also had the ladies come out. And at that point, we started to become more holistic in how we started to do outreach, how we started to minister into the community. Mm-hmm. And I mean, from there, like the sky's the limit. We capped off at the end of the year doing a 10,000 toy giveaway for the community. And it's just been an awesome experience that I get to impact with not only where I grew up at, but also with like people that I can call friends and family.
I mean, even just to that point, like Jay said, we went out earlier today. We got to serve with you guys and just see what all of you guys do. And by the way, if you look at my hoodie here, you can see I was blessed with the Crenshaw. What's it say?
Crenshaw Cougars.
Crenshaw Cougars. English is my first language, so I'm still learning how to pronounce certain words. So please give me time with that. But it was just such an awesome opportunity for me to come and to serve. And we also have our boy Yvonne here. We all went to school together. So where does your passion for the community come from, right? Because, I mean, like you mentioned, there were some people screaming Black Lives Matter and different things like that. But to actually take the initiative to do something about what was going on in the community, where does that passion for the community come from?
That's an awesome question, and so many things comes from that. But I think like at this point, I would have to like point back to my faith. Like I would have to point back to God. It was just like it's. I feel like it's one of like our duties, right? To justice, to serve, to protect, to feed those that are hungry, to clothe those that don't have clothes, and that's. At this point in my life, that's my natural inclination to give and to serve. And I learned those principles from my mom. She's very much rooted in like serving the community. I mean, like since I was little, she would always welcome like people from the church and she would cook food, or it was like she'd have her shop and like someone would be experiencing homelessness, or it'd be like someone that's, a night walker in the community and they would come into the shop and she would give them clothes free of charge and just minister into and love on them. And that's the mentality I grew up in. Right. So by the time I got older, I wanted to understand God a little bit for myself, and not just from my parents' perspective. And I really got a genuine understanding of like service learning from like when I went to Oral Roberts University. And a quick story is like I got my BA in public relations. We had a class called a marketing class called I think it was just a marketing class that we marketed for specific like nonprofits that were doing good work in the community. And the one our group got chose with was called Truckers Against Trafficking. And so it's like if you see something on the highways and byways, you say something. And so, being from the hood, being from LA, I took a deep interest into this, because there's a huge heavy like prostitution and like pimping like going on like all like the street I grew up off of Western, which is like my mom's thrift shop is off of. And I remember diving into this class and I'm just like, yo, is this stuff really going on at truck stops? And everybody in my group like, yeah, Ty, because I'm not from the Midwest or anything. And they're like, no, yeah, like there's a lot going on like with sex trafficking. I'm like, no way. And I remember being honestly, true story. I remember being at a party one night, right? I'm at a party and I'm just chilling with everybody and I'm just like, wait, I live next to a truck stop. Hey guys, I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah. And I literally drove to the truck stop and I waited all night. I didn't see nobody. So the next day I'm getting ready for class and I'm walking to class and I was just like, and I stay like right behind Walmart too. And I'm walking to class and I'm saying, wait, maybe they do it during the daytime. Maybe I'm not figuring out something. So I literally went during the daytime and I just stood there. And I was really just focused on like, at this point, like saving and serving. And I remember my teacher came and knocked on my door because it's been about 3 days I missed class, right? And she's like, hey, Ty, what's going on? And I was like, none, I just like found like there's a truck stop next to me and I'm just trying to figure out like how I can like help and serve. And she's like, and this is so special about ORU and how like a lot of what I do is so connected to like that place. Rather than the teacher, criticize me for not going to class, she says, so why are you not going? And I was just like, because like this truck stop is right here and the work I'm doing, I got to be here. I got to serve and protect. It's like, you know what? That's amazing. Like, that's your passion. Continue to keep going down that path. He's like, but number two, like, you're a black dude in Tulsa, like, you're not Superman. Like, let's like lay off that a little bit. But what I did was I came home And I took that same energy and I started interviewing like true story. I started interviewing like local prostitutes, local pimps, and say, hey, like, why are you doing this? And I started connecting the correlation between like the mindsets, right? Of like having like this victim mentality and like just diving deep. And like, this is someone who's like 20, 21. And I would go talk to my friends about this and they would say, Ty, you're weird. Like, let's go talk about girls. Let's go talk about turning up. Like, you over here talking about like, what are you doing, bro? And I admit, like, I got into this awkward space, but I love my church community, right? Where the elders said, you know what, Tyrone, I got somewhere you can put that passion. Let's go to Skid Row. And literally my first day on Skid Row, I'm like thinking I'm about to be like the best speaker. I'm like, I graduated from Oral Roberts University, the most prestigious Christian university on this planet. I'm going to get up there on this mic and I'm going to let people know how they can be saved. I'm gonna let them know that they can walk out of here and Skid Row does not stop them. I got up there with so much pride. And I get up there and there's about 300 people in this room. And I look out and I just start crying. One word didn't come out. I just started crying like, I'm sorry, guys. I got up here and I thought like I was gonna say something, but I don't know you guys. I don't know what's going on in your shoes. I can't, who am I? But what I can say is I love you and I care about you and I'm here for you. And literally right next to me, as soon as I got off stage, there was this young high school group that was doing a cultural immersion in Skid Row. And their teacher came up to me and said, hey, can you talk to our group of students and can you show them around? That very moment was literally a divine intervention and connection because that's how I got into doing the work I did on Skid Row for 5 years as a volunteer manager. So everything really kind of came like full circle.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, I love it because I think I don't want to say uniquely, because I feel like there's some people out there that do embrace it, but from a young age, I think we can see through your story that like you are willing to take things seriously when it's needed to be.
Yeah.
And that you're not over here wanting to just hand wave complex issues or serious things for the sake of your comfortability or your time or your fun or anything like that. And I think that there's a lot of people who, and Christians for that sake, and I mean, I think we can all say that we've been there at some point where like we see something but we're just kind of like, oh, like someone else will do it. Yeah. Like someone else will take care of that. And we don't take that initiative because we don't love them. We don't really care enough to want to sacrifice to do that. Yeah. And maybe a tangent off of that is we don't take the message and the commandments seriously enough to do that. And so I think it's really interesting because that hit me back in like 2016, 2017, when like we started up Perspectives, is like, hey, there's all these different needs that we see in the community that we have a heart for, and this need for people to be able to have the opportunity to do travel, culture, service opportunities and experiences and to grow from that. And so from there, like one of the songs that kind of inspired me during that time, y'all probably haven't heard this, but we can fix that afterwards, is this song, Why So Serious by KB. And
you singing it for us? No?
Yeah, you can sing
a little bit.
Bro, no. Okay. We let Chaz
just give us a few lines.
We let Chaz freestyle last night, so we that'll be enough rapping on the podcast. But so basically, Ravi's on there as well. I had like an excerpt of one of his sermons, and basically he just kind of talks about like, yo, like if once we wake up to the reality of like how serious things are in this world in terms of people starving over in the Middle East, over in India, over in Africa. Issues that are going on here in our country and how complex some of those things are. Like once you dive into that and take that seriously enough, like you can't think about anything other than that.
You can't.
And it was something like for me, whenever I came back from my first mission trip to Costa Rica and saw a lot of poverty in like, for me, I would say like in more desperate ways than I've ever seen before, just from like my childhood, it was crazy. And I came back and I couldn't go a day without thinking about Costa Rica and the kids down there and the people down there. And so it's so interesting. And so maybe if you want to speak to that at all, because something I've struggled with is like in the midst of having those serious things, finding joy and having that balance and being like, hey, like this is serious. We are called to be urgent in meeting these things. But at the same time, like I think the Father does want me to be joyful in some way and bear the fruit of joy in the midst of like working to further his purposes and stuff like that. So what's that kind of look like for you?
Dude, that's that's fire. If I'm being completely like transparent and honest, like that's something I still like struggle with even to this day. Like I'm very much like all work and no play, you know, and I mean, like what you said just like really hit me, because it's just like trying to find that balance, you know, and like, but also still remain hopeful and optimistic of like a better tomorrow. And like, there's this author, her name is Austin Channing Brown, and in one of her like latest books, she talks about the living in the shadows of hope. And it's like the future may be the darkest and bleakest, but it's just like that the tenacity to have like an ounce of hope, you know, is what we should live with and should be our posture. You know, so once we rest and anchor ourselves in that hope, we should be able to then move forward within like the idea of like self-care and having like time for yourself and like having fun and like smiling. And like I'll say I'm like really in like a interesting space now. Like, so like for me, because I do so much work in the community and I see so much and I hold so much space, I do therapy. Like I'm a very big proponent of like mental health, and I feel like there's just so much trauma in our world that like yes, like pray, yes, meditate, yes, when 2 or 3 are gathered, that's great, but like being able to have another outlet where you can just pour just unapologetically like into like a space, and then be able to process, being able to ground yourself, being able to say, like, even I did one Thursday, I had a session Thursday. The biggest one was you're already enough and to be proud of yourself, right? Because I'm doing a lot of great work where I can be like, oh, okay, like, I should be proud of myself. Like, Ty, you're on Radio Disney, you know? But for me, I don't process that. So I do the work to like be able to connect that. And so what you said is like a very real thing. It's like I'm still struggling with that, and I'm still moving to a space where I could be say like, good job, Ty, like that's good. Because there's so many people hurting, and there's such a need for individuals like ourselves in the world, right? And even in the pockets of these communities where I'm like, I can think about myself a little bit later, but there should be a space where you should be able to like do that.
I mean, even to Chase's question, even a follow-up question for me is, I remember one time going, was it West End? I believe it was West End. It's the homeless
church
that we've served at in Dallas. And I remember last time we were there, kind of just processing in my own mind. You know, you see people in this kind of environment. I remember thinking to myself, man, Lord, like what can I do for them? You know. So how do you go about fighting that thought of, is all of this even worth it? Is anybody even being helped in any of the things that we're doing, right? Like that. It's almost easy to give up at sometimes, because I don't know if what I'm doing is even enough. Like how do you combat against that?
You know, I that's an awesome question. Like I found like the most peace in the midst of like the chaos of Skid Row. Like I would go there with the heaviest burdens, and then I would have honest conversations with people in the community. I'd be like, dude, what am I tripping off of? Like they over here like telling me how their day is and like how wonderful God is and how like beautiful things are, and I got the audacity to want to wrestle with stress. Like who? What? And so, I mean, to be honest, like the perspective to go there, right, with humility and grace, and open my mind to the perspective of I don't know everything, and sometimes we get caught up in like the complexities of the savior complex, where we have to have all the answers or we have to go and do something when it's truly about the relationship. And so for me, if I'm able to connect with a high, or I care about you, or you care about me, that's the win. And so when we have volunteer groups that come down, and it's really all about shifting their perspective, because it's like you meet someone that's experiencing homelessness, you automatically think they're doing drugs, something they've been in jail, all these different things happen. But there's a number of people that, you know, businesses ran dry. Someone passed away. They didn't have like the retirement funds or different things set up. I mean, like there's so many different ways of why people are experiencing homelessness, but they don't get like that recognition. They just automatically get, oh, you're homeless, I'm going to pass you off. And so it's really the whole idea of shifting the perspective through building relationships.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, I love what you're talking about, because one of the relationships in like what you're talking about is obviously our relationship with the Father. And that's something, like, to answer your question and to kind of go back and provide one of the answers that I think I've seen to my question that I asked is resting in the fact of God's goodness and the completeness of his plan, and something that we don't have to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. And it's something that, especially those who take things seriously and really like genuinely love people, is something that we tend to do because we think it's admirable.
Yeah.
Which in some way, yeah, it makes sense that it's admirable. But if you dig deeper, it's just like, well, in the context of our faith, maybe it's more admirable to put full trust in the Father and just do the best that we can. And from there, like, hey, if someone comes alongside us to meet this need that I have, bet. Or if it's something that he won't accomplish fixing this societal issue or this issue for another 2 generations, and like, guess what? I just need to do the work right now and be at peace in knowing that the Father's plan is good.
Yeah, that's
because,
so good.
like, yeah, if we don't trust that, then it's just, okay, well, I mean, all this would be in vain for anyways.
Yeah.
If it's not going to be for his timeline or anything like that.
Yeah, that's so beautiful, because it's like you're either trusting God or you're trusting yourself. And if you're trusting yourself, you're putting all of that weight on your shoulders and you're going to be crushed. But when you truly put your trust in the Father, you know, and look, meditate on his word day and night. I mean, there's reasons why these scriptures are put in place so that you can be cognitive of, hey, you know what? Like, I'm going to plant the seed. He's going to do the watering. I'm not the waterer. But sometimes we're like, look, I'm going to go get this reservoir because this needs to be done. But if you're not, you know, waking up saying I'm trusting, I'm going to just put my rest in there. And you wake up maybe one day and be like, I'm just going to trust in myself. You put that on yourself, like you're doing detrimental damage not only to yourself but to the areas that you were supposed to be sowing in. Like, that's so pertinent.
I mean, even to something that came to mind as you were talking, I was reading your long 2-page introduction there.
Swag.
It was at least 3 pages, at least. Question number 1 is, where do you find your identity? Question number 2, how do you avoid that temptation to find your identity in, I'm Tyrone, my identity is I do this, I serve here, I've done this, all the things that we do, like we often do, right? My identity is me being a doctor, me being a lawyer.
Yeah.
How do you fight that temptation and not making about these things?
Oh my gosh, you know, that's a beautiful thing. I'll say, like, I had growing up in South Central, like, I had a very but I grew up in South Central, but I grew up in like a very like Christian home / basketball community. So I was very sheltered and covered in some aspects, and I was very naive to the world. So when I got older and I thought that my relationship with God could be passed from like my family, but I had to do the work for myself. I was very naive in that. Like, even when I went to ORU, I was very angry. I was like, and it was right around the time where I stopped playing like basketball for like the first time because I wanted to like dedicate my life to God. And like during that time, I was like during junior college, I was smoking and drinking and partying, and like I was like, this isn't a reflection of God. Like, okay, and at that point, I had to remove myself from the sport and then focus on God. And a lot of people made fun of me, and like I really dug deep into God for like the first time as a serious person, like between like 18 and 19. And I remember at this point, you know, you're like that new babe, right? And like, I'm just like, I'm tripping off like wet dreams. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to my pastor, like, yo, we got to pray. Like, just something happened. And he's like laughing at me, and I didn't really get it back then. But I didn't have any grace for myself. And I remember like, I sinned, right? And I like literally like, I don't know if it was having sex or what it was, but I did something. And I literally was like, I guess I'm not a Christian anymore. Like, I'm the worst person in the world. I'm not going to ORU anymore. Like, I'm not doing anything anymore. Yeah. And I walked into ORU with that. And God said, I don't care, give me that.
Wow.
And God literally covered me through every single situation where I thought, you know, there were times where I was like contemplating suicide. There were times where I didn't believe in myself. There was times where I thought I was going to give up, and God kept me. He was there with me in the valley. So it's only right that he's there with me on the hilltop. And I'm screaming loud as I can, like, yo, it's all God. It ain't me. So I'm going to remain humble as possible because I know it ain't me. It's him. Because that this as easily as I can get up here, as easily as I can go down. But I know that my story is impactful for other people to fall in love with Christ, because it's the power of our testimonies that change and save souls. And I'm like really dedicated and committed to that, because I saw the stress. Like, it wasn't cookie cutter for me. Like, I've been shot before. Like, I don't tell people all the time, but like, you know, like there's been very crazy things that have happened to me to where I was just like, I'm never going to be anything of a success, to the point now where I'm just like, I do have money in my pocket. I do have business. I do have this. I am doing this, but it's not mine. It's God's. And so I think as long as I'd stay aligned with that purpose and those, like, what God brought me from, I could, like, man, you know, I want to, can we shout? Like, can we do like a little excerpt and do a shout
really
break?
can.
Like,
I mean,
seriously.
even to add to that, we were speaking with your mom
God's so
earlier,
good.
and she was telling us about all these different things when you mentioned that we all went to school together. And so just being able to hear that testimony from her point of view, right? It's confirming everything you're saying.
Listen, I honor code at ORU.
Listen,
like, what?
I'm not trying.
Number one, I didn't sign the paper.
Put your business out there, but
no, it's cool. Like, number one, I didn't sign the honor code, and number two,
wait, how'd you not sign the honor code?
I just didn't sign it. You know, I just didn't sign it.
What?
You know, number two, like I was carrying so much there. Like I really didn't want to go there, and I was just so frustrated I was there. And I remember the first time I pulled up on campus, they were like, "La la la, welcome to ORU. Let's put you in your room." I'm like, "If you touch me, I'm gonna sock you in the face." So when I was there, I was really wrestling with the fact that I felt like I let God down because of I sinned or because I made a mistake. I didn't know anything about grace that way, you know. I didn't know anything about like anything. I just knew I messed up and like it could never be fixed, you know. And so I carried this anger, this frustration. God could never use me. So when I was at ORU, I partied like it was 1999, I guess, what old people used to say back in the day. But you know, so the relation, like I met a lot of people on the courts, met a lot of people passing through in the hallways, but I was very much in like a world of like myself, you know. It was into that class. That class really changed and shifted me because I fell in love with the people, which helped me fall even deeper in love with God. And because I saw people through the lenses of God, that allowed me to see the way God viewed me. And like, I would have never got that if I wouldn't have took that journey. So everything I went through at ORU was totally like, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change a thing. I was called in the dean office so much where I was like, please, Dean, do not let me go. Like, you know, and he's like, Tyrone, I'm gonna give you one more shot. You got a purpose. God's got a plan for you.
Yeah.
Look at me now. Holla at your boy.
There it goes.
Bro, that's amazing. I love it. And kind of shifting gears, I think kind of back towards like the organization.
Backpedal.
Reeling it in a little bit.
Let's backpedal.
Yeah.
God is good, though.
God is good. He's gonna get it together. Don't worry.
Amen
God
to
is
that.
good.
Hey, bro. I'm still reeling from last night. All those jokes. Whew. We saw like some of the work that y'all are doing.
Yeah.
Some of the projects that you're doing firsthand, and it was absolutely awesome. Like, so grateful that we could be a part of that.
Yeah.
And be there just to further what God's doing in your community already, which is part of what we want to do when we travel other places. And so from there, I guess, it's bigger than us. What do you see the vision of it being? What do you see it growing to? And maybe even from there, if you want to share any sort of incremental short-term goals that you've set up to get to those long-term goals, like what are some of those things that y'all have set up, you and your team?
So one of the biggest things is we wanted to continue to have like a transformative impact on our community through community organizing and outreach efforts, right? But another big thing that we want to bring to the table within like, two things. One is more transformative conversation. So like this month we're doing Black History Month celebration, remembering the past, processing the present, and celebrating the future. And we brought in local community like legends, from artists to hip hop moguls to philanthropists and executive directors to come and have these conversations with the community to model what it looks like to have healthy conversations and dialogues, right? But that is in the short term thought process with that, but in the long term, it's like, okay, let's continue to have these conversations when it comes to the LGBTQ plus, when it comes to Pride Month. Like, what does that look like? Understanding pronouns. What does that look like? Understanding gender expressions identity. Okay, Latin American Month. What does it look like? Because when you look at the margins of society, you have to look at it holistically. You have to look at it as a circle because there's so many different people hurting. So I want to be able to model and have like conversations with people in the community. So that's going to be a very big component of like teaching, lecturing, having like guest speakers come in and share. So we might have to reel you guys in and bring you guys back in too. But another huge one is going to be like programming for our youth. We're going to have like youth internships in the summer and in the fall, where it talks about like a lot of community organizing, activism work, policy changes and different orders and really structuring like workshops for like the youth. And so this year is like really going to be dedicated to like building like the groundwork of that. Then next year we want to institute the structure of us moving into the direction of getting a building.
Right.
There we go.
I mean, even so last year around, just when all the protests and everything was going on, I remember getting on Instagram and seeing you on there. Some people go to the protests and you're just being a part, and there's a lot of different things. People, their minds all over the place. But I noticed you were leading the protests and things of that nature. So how did that exactly happen? Did somebody just throw you over there? How did those opportunities for you to lead these protests begin?
You know what? God is such a character in how like he chooses like his leaders. You'd be like, nah, like I'm just gonna show up and just like wave something, and he's like, no, like I want you to like lead it. And so I remember when the protest jumped off. I was living in downtown LA, and people were like storming at like the freeways and like breaking in buildings and different stuff in the downtown LA. And I was like tucked in my little like apartment. I was like, I ain't going nowhere. This is wild out here. So I got up in the morning and do my jog, and I'm like jogging through the community, and I have my headphones on, and I just start seeing like these signs that says like the revolution will be televised. Like, we see you, we love you, Black Lives Matter. Like, do not be afraid, blah, blah, blah. And like, I just stopped and I just started bawling, and I was like, wait, you love me? Like, I don't know why it hit me that way, but it was just like, it hit me. And I called everybody I knew, literally everybody I knew. I mean, you black, white, brown, like whatever. And we met up at this park where it was gonna be like a huge protest. It was about 10 or 15 of us, that came, and we wrote in our signs on the ground, and then, we rallied, and then we started marching. And so I heard somebody say like, Black Lives Matter. So I was like, Black Lives Matter. And then they were like, whose streets? Our streets. I'm like, whose streets? Our streets. So I noticed that like as I was listening to the faint echo and I was saying it, and I was saying it loud, people were like saying it back in response to like me. And all I know is it just kept getting louder, and eventually like took off my shirt, and I was just like, ah. And then actually, it was like this huge mob of people, and I was like, this can never happen again. Yeah. This can never happen again. Then I go to another protest, and then like we're getting ready to, and we're just a part of this on our group, and we're getting ready to leave. And I get on a bench, and I'm just, keep going, everybody. So proud of you guys. Keep going. Like, this is awesome. And this guy, he was just like, hey, here's a blowhorn. I was like, what? I don't want, like, what do I want to do with this? And I started like joking around with it like for a second. Next thing you know, about at least 1,000 people stop. And next thing I know, like me and like the team, like we reenacted George Floyd's like the seconds, the minutes, like verbatim. Like, we're gonna get on our knees, we're gonna hold up our fists, Even though it hurts, we're going to hold it up in solidarity. And after every 2 minutes, like the person behind me would get on the mic and said, this is at this point, this is when the police officer's on the neck. At this point, this is when George Floyd like called for her mom. This is when this happened. And then at the end, we like prayed. And it was like this big, huge, like, I'm getting chills right now, like explosion of like just like praise and like people praying. And then I'm like, yo, this is done after this point. Then my church said, hey, Ty, let's do a protest together. So literally it started with like just two or three of us, and it grew to like 5,000. Here I am in the middle of Hollywood and Vine, you know, talking to people about allyship. Like, hey, white people, like, this is what it looks like to be an ally. Within this space, get on the outer circles of the protest circle so that you would be a bridge and a protection. Number two, for black people, you stay in the center and you rely on that trust and support. And so within that time frame, we were able to have honest dialogue, look to your left, look to your right. This is what it's all about. And it just continued to grow, continue to evolve. In the very next thing, this is how I knew God was so deep involved in this. I said, God, as a leader, you got to be able to lead from the back, the side, and the front. I get a check deposited for like 100, 150 from like a random, like a pastor, right? And the pastor said, hey, take care of yourself, get some food. I get another $50 deposit. And so at that point I said, hey, I'm going to buy food, water, and resources for all the protesters. I'm going to grab as many friends and we're going to go shopping and we're going to hand it all out. I did all that in downtown LA at the steps. Next thing you know, they're handing me the mic to speak to the crowd. And I was like, okay, at this point, like, it's just God. So it just honestly just kept escalating and kept growing and, you know, right place, right time. I don't know.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's something that we were talking about last night with like some friends who were over in terms of just like the topics of like unity and leadership. And it's something that like, I love that you brought it up, and I'd love to just get your perspective on this. 'Cause I think we're all still trying to bring out like clarity and nuance in different things.
Yeah.
Because I think that's something our culture definitely struggles with is nuance, because we want things so fast. We want to process all these ideas
Microwave
so fast.
generation. Hello.
Exactly. And so we aren't willing to sit down with like the complexities and nuances of a lot of things. And I think one of the things that's interesting is basically the importance of leaders in public movements, and how one of our friends last night brought up that, at least off the top of our heads, like the last leader that we could say for like a social movement that was like the leader, and there's peripheral leaders, but he was the one that's gone down in history, is MLK. And it's something that in me, like for me, and kind of some thoughts that I don't want to say we all 100% agreed on, but we're kind of like, this is maybe something, is like with these seemingly like leaderless movements that's been happening a lot over the last, I mean, I'm only 27, so I don't want to say 20 or 30 years.
But you look good, man. You look good.
Appreciate you, dog. But over however so long, it's something that I think, like the positive part of that is like we can see it's something that the people think is genuine. Like at least think it's genuine. It could be, but at least they think that it is, because it's something where they're not rallying around a person, but they're rallying around like something like a cause. And from there, it is something where it's literally just grassroots. It just happens. It's not something where a whole bunch of people need to pump money into it to make it happen. It's something that happens. But from there, it's interesting because the negative side of a leaderless movement is the side that is on the other side of the conversation in terms of like the ones who can enact the policies or things like that. Like they don't have that person of that movement that they can talk to then implement things. And from there, then you get like not having a clear vision of what it means, people
interpreting the vision,
interpreting things different ways, thinking that words mean different things. And so from there you get all this, so you can get all this chaos. And from there, this progress might not happen, or progress might happen in some areas of it, but not some other areas. And from there, like, oh, if this happens, well, then this part of the movement didn't see this implication, like things like that. And so one of the things I love for you is like you stepping up in leadership, because of being grounded in the word is something like I want to encourage you on, like keep doing that, because it's something that is needed. I can't remember who said this, but that there's there's a lot of influencers today, but there's not a lot of leaders. And that a part of influence or a part of leadership, like we talked with Neb about, is influence. But there's something else about wisdom and discernment and knowing where to go.
Yeah.
And then from there, being able to create the combination of awareness and action that follows up with that.
Yeah.
And so maybe like what I'd want to give you some time to share thoughts on and discuss is like, what do you think leadership looks like kind of going forward, either for you or for just the things that are going on in the country at the moment? And what are some things that you think can happen positively if we're able to have, whether it's a group of people or a person to kind of rally around in terms of leadership, or some of the negative things, but just kind of going on.
No, I love like everything that you just said. I mean, like there were so many points to like pull from, but I think like leaders nowadays have to be able to duplicate themselves into others.
Okay.
And I would say like, you know, with the past movements, the trickle effect, you know, even from like a King, like the trickle effect, or even from from Malcolm, like the trickle effect didn't go like broad across the waters. And like even now, like, you know, one of the biggest things about what we're doing is bigger than us is pouring in, like I'm pouring into like every one of the leaders that we have. And then those leaders are pouring into other leaders. And we're building like this strong leadership dynamic where, you know, the most hoodest person can go and serve and be a better leader and support it in those communities. And so that, I mean, duplicating, you know, leaders duplicating themselves into it and not looking at like this space as like a crab in a barrel, because oftentimes it's like, I got the mic, I got the juice, I'm gonna keep it, I'm not handing it off to nobody. Matter of fact, like I'm gonna die and I'm gonna bury the mic in the casket so that somebody has to open the casket and remove it. By the time they do it, now they want to be selfish with it because they didn't have it as long amount of time, and we have to look at it as that time. Like, if I came to a conclusion, like if God didn't do anything else with me, I'm good. I'm good, you know? But I think honestly, dude, like our country right now is in a very awesome spot to really move into a direction of positive change through listening. I mean, right now you have a lot of people having a lot of different conversations that hasn't been had. You have a lot of people stepping up, and I, you know, one thing I love about people stepping up and having conversations, it's very messy. People are saying things that are offensive, and people are really having grace for one another in a way that I haven't seen before in our nation. And I think that it's going to take a lot of healing and a lot of love, but also a lot of accountability. And so we definitely need a leader that's going to be able to like look from all like the whole margins of the perspective and scream out unity. Like when I used to be in those circles speaking, somebody would come before me. If it was one of those kind of circuits, somebody would come before me and be like, you know, we got to segregate, we got to divide, we got to do this. And I would get up there and be like, love, 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 you know? And then a person behind me would be like, division, division, division. They'd be like, yeah, you know, and it's just like, no, that's not the solution. That's you're projecting, you know what I'm saying? And so, dude, it looks like individuals like ourselves that are going to be bridge builders and like look at each side. I mean, because my partner, she's white, right? And so people in the black community, they'll be like, how can you lead a black movement with a white girl? I'm like, dude, this is like human rights, like movement. Like this is like the world. Like the very fact that you said that, we need to have a conversation and talk about like how we can broaden your perspective. Like, because like there's so many people hurting, and for you to see through the lens of that is very negative and very like a better word, kind of stupid. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, something that you said earlier, I kind of wanted to get back on is, you know, the importance of investing in the next generation.
Yeah.
You know, for you, with It's Bigger Than Us, you know, why is that so important for you guys? Because obviously, Jason, I know, but just speak to that a little bit more.
It's bigger than us because hope has to be greater than fear. It has to be able to say, and I keep saying hope because the thing is, we're not certain about tomorrow or even the next day, but we can rest in that ability to push in that direction. And so, it starts with like, you know, also too, you know, before we can transform any community, we must be first willing to take accountability for ourselves and transform ourselves.
Yeah.
Like we can't say like, hey, you got a speck in your eye and not look at the one in my eye.
Lead by example.
And you got to be able to lead by example. So I will be the first one to say, hey, I messed up. Hey, I did this. Hey, I did this. And the youth seeing that and modeling that allows them to grow further, faster, and stronger in a better way than our generation was able to, or you know. And so the youth are everything. They're everything for us. And like even what they are doing, like how they organize on TikTok is like so fascinating and so amazing. How they can create like these new digital movements for radical change. You know, like with all like love beyond border abandonment, and it's just like, that's cool. Where'd you learn that from? And it's just like, no, this is that generation. And so like we want to support them in any way we can. So we have I didn't even think about it, but we're doing like the Dream in Color youth talent show, partnering with like the Crenshaw Y, like Russell Westbrook's Why Not Foundation and Jordan to empower the kids to be more creative. So it's like for Black History Month, you have to create like original pieces, like whether it's like through any form of art, any form of music, any form of creative writing, you know, and just say like, hey, what's your thoughts around Black history or culture or this? And you can win prizes. You can win like $500,000, like, you know, you name it. And it's like,
wait, how do I enter in this?
You know,
or am I a little too old past my?
You know, like if you. No, yeah, you are too. I can't
I'm
even
a
wing
little
it.
too
I
old.
can't wing it. I can't wing it. But like with that smile, like you win all the prize money. But that's what it looks like. It's saying like you may not necessarily want to read Obama's 92,000 page, you know, book that just came out, right? But we can encourage you and say, draw something super creative, and we want to encourage you to do that because you know what? We're planting that seed, and somebody else is going to do the watering, right?
Yeah, I love it. And something that I think you could do with the youth as well that you're modeling with, you know, it's bigger than us is, and Neb kind of talked about this in terms of vision casting is essentially a part of like delegation and growing and scaling is putting that vision that you have or your central group has into others. And so then from there, what they can do is they can grow, they can go off on their own. Yeah. You can essentially delegate because you trust them because they have, can't remember, it's like clarity of vision, trust, and then a number of other things. You could go listen to that episode if you want. He's super wise dude. But I love that you're doing that, not just with like the organization, but y'all are doing that with the youth as well in a way, in terms of just giving them space to create. And then from there, like honoring what they're doing, or I should say honoring what the Father's doing through them, but then as well, potentially use that as an opportunity to kind of mentor them and teach them discernment and develop those skills. Because that's something as well that I don't think we have very much of in our culture is like conflict resolution skills and discernment. It's something that we really like to take the path of least resistance. And so then from there, like how we pursue improvement is just through seemingly like easy ways or just not even having those conversations and either letting the issues persist or the solutions that we implement creating other issues. Different things like that. Like again, it goes back to the nuance topic.
Absolutely.
There's so much of that. And so, I mean, I love it, man. I love what y'all are doing out here.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
Love what you guys are doing. I mean, again, like the definition of transformative leadership is like, I mean, you guys are like having these diverse conversations, you know, near and far with so many different individuals that are like impacting like the world. And it's just like, yo, you're not so different from me the way you love. You're not so different from me the way you're like impacting. Let's partner. Let's work together. Let's create a change together, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's something we talked about a lot.
So big shout out to y'all. Big shout out to y'all.
Big shout out to the Perspectives podcast. You can find us on, I'm joking.
You can find us
on everywhere. All streaming platforms.
Yeah, on all streaming platforms, on TikTok.
Perspective Tattoos coming soon.
Wow.
How about stickers first?
It got
Then maybe
extreme.
go
It
up
got
to
extreme
tattoos.
fast. We get extreme out here in LA.
Yeah.
We're just like we're very fast.
I don't know about the tattoo yet.
I just
You're not yet it.
I'm
You're not
I
yet
don't
it?
know about tattoos.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm yat it.
Grayson back there's got some,
You got it. Oh yeah,
You got it?
Oh yeah.
but yeah, he's
Wait,
got some
wait.
tats.
Yvonne's too black for that.
What is
We need to get you a glow in the dark tat.
Yatted? What is
That would,
yatted
Shelby would
mean?
love that.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
yeah.
But
Okay, awesome.
man. Do you have any
That
last
went left
questions?
again.
No, I don't have any last questions, man. I know we've been trying to get you on the podcast the last 7 years, so I'm glad that you're able to make
Thank you.
some time for us. We really apprate it. Just being able to come.
And I got to give my boy
Oh, yeah, give
a
a
shout out.
Yeah, yeah.
Unconventionally refined.
Yes, sir.
Because this is my boy's brand, black owned, Derek Blair, in LA. You should check it out. I mean, essentially, it's about really, we are to be able to refine our lives, our communities, our families, unapologetically. So check it out. My boy got some fire gear, got a nice little fish hat, got a little shirt right here for Black History Month. Nice little jacket. I'm nice and warm. So as you're, pursuing your activism, stay dope and stay swaggy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's dope.
That was a cool drop, huh?
I
It
think
was.
It was.
Make sure you do like a little bomb, like when you do it, like
Yeah,
We got to find
we can-
someone who can do editing first.
Hey,
you can do.
I don't
I've
think
seen
so.
you do a lot of
I'm just
parodies.
better at the
I've seen you do a lot of parodies where
Yeah.
you can do a lot of sounds.
That's Yvonne. Yvonne's actually really good with the sounds.
I
and
love how
parodies.
you just like
Yeah, because I
just
can't do it.
pass it on to
Just to
someone
flex.
else. Yeah, you gotta be better at that. You gotta just.
I'm working on myself, like you said.
I love you guys,
bro.
I love you
Oh my
guys.
gosh.
I had an awesome time.
Yeah.
This is wonderful.
Thanks for coming on,
I look forward to following your journey, and hopefully one day in the future I can come back on here and interview you two.
Yeah.
Hey, bet you can come
great.
down to Dallas.
Yeah.
Roles will be reversed. I think
Yeah.
last thing to end it here. How can people get involved with It's Bigger Than Us and things like that?
Yes, you can get it involved with It's Bigger Than Us by following us on plenty of our social media. So number one, our website, it's biggerthanusla.org. Our Instagram, it's bigger than us _ we have a YouTube page that shows all of the awesome work that we're doing at It's Bigger Than Us Los Angeles. We have a Facebook page, and so tap in with us, DM us, hit us up, get involved, donate. It's a wonderful organization to be a part of. And if you're ever in LA, come to one of our outreaches. We do food distributions every week.
Yeah. So that's what we went and did this morning. Was able to participate in that, and it was absolutely awesome. We'll have some of that on our social media. So if they want to see some of those videos, photos, things like that, we'll have that on there, both
Wow.
pictures and then stories, stuff like that. We can make one of those little highlight things.
Yeah.
Yeah, be able to do that.
Yeah.
But so it was solid. You have any last things?
I don't. Wait, who are you going for NBA Finals?
I don't even watch basketball anymore.
Okay, never mind. You can close it.
You know what I do?
Go
You know what I,
James.
you know what I do?
What do you do?
I impact communities.
Okay.
Like you said, he's serious.
Yeah, we're
Like, I can't even believe you would utter and say something like that.
I just feel like we're done. Like with the
I mean,
video's about to run out.
okay, we finished this, but the world is still crying. Are you not able to wipe a tear?
I don't cry much. That's not really it.
I do. I cry a lot during Disney movies.
Yeah.
Have you checked out the new Mulan?
Which one?
It's like the.
I heard the dragon wasn't in there, so I can't watch it. without
No.
the dragon.
It was really good, right? Didn't you cry
Yeah.
at the end? Did you cry at the
cry at the
end
end?
where like when she like saved her entire like?
Oh, don't give spoilers to the kids who haven't seen it yet.
Also, fire.
Yeah.
Okay, like self-care. Last shameless plug. Hamilton. Yo, I finally saw it on Disney.
That's the dance movie, right?
It's a musical.
Oh.
It's the Broadway play. Hamilton.
English isn't my first language,
It's
so,
look,
you know.
it's fire. It is literally fire. I'm not throwing away my shot.
Yeah.
I'll step in for Josue. I'm not a musical guy either. I think it's okay.
You think it's okay?
I think it's okay.
Wow.
What,
say that.
Hamilton?
But again, I'm not a musical guy. I'm saying that. I don't like
What,
musicals.
what do you like in life so I can critique it and tear it down?
Oh, goodness. Dark Knight?
Dark Knight?
Bro, the
First
symbolism
off,
in that
Batman had no superpowers. Like he's okay. Let's break him down. Let's
Okay.
break him out. First off, full of white privilege, very much so. Tons of money, fake giving back. I don't know. I just don't like Batman. I'm very much a Superman kind of person. Like that's me.
Just the symbolism in that movie. about fear and bravery and courage and sacrifice. Like that,
I will
that is,
say Heath Ledger,
amen.
phenomenal job.
Amazing performance.
Phenomenal job. I'm sorry you don't watch any things.
I usually read the Bible. I'm trying to
Exclusively.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
What where you at in the Bible?
Right now I'm reading the book of Psalms, chapter 18. Great book. You should check it out.
Okay.
I never heard of that. I've never heard of that. Is it like
Is it a good one?
is it a good one?
Yeah, you can get it on digital on all the platforms. And make sure to also check us out on the Perspectives podcast.
So
platform.
there we go. That'll be it for our movie reviews and our
Okay.
Bible reviews, I guess.
Yeah, I'll check it out when it comes out on DVD.
I hope so.
Bet.
All right.
Well, all right. We appreciate y'all for tuning in. It was a lot of fun.
Shout out to the West Coast, Crenshaw. We're here.
Y'all
That's
silly.
all I have to
Tyrone,
do.
thank you for coming on
Do a
again,
little
man.
gang banging. A little
It's
bit.
dope. We'll have all of his information in the description. We'll have all of It's Bigger Than Us information in the description. If you want to check him out, support him, and volunteer with him. And hopefully you come out to Dallas soon.
Yes.
If we come back out to LA,
Yes.
we'll for sure hit you up. We kind of want to do a group trip out here.
Yes.
I think that'd be legit. But all of our information is in the description as well. If you want to support us, support any of the work that we're doing, and all that fun stuff. So until next time, much love. God bless.
Much love. Peace. Yeah.